Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth on April 14, 1865, at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. His death plunged the nation into profound grief, coming just days after the surrender of Confederate General Robert E. Lee at Appomattox, signaling the end of the Civil War. Lincoln's state funeral became an unprecedented spectacle of national mourning, spanning 3 weeks and involving elaborate ceremonies, public viewings, and a historic funeral train journey. This event not only honored the fallen leader, but also unified a divided country in shared sorrow, with millions participating in the rituals. The proceedings began in the Capitol and culminated in his burial in Springfield, Illinois, his hometown. Immediately after the assassination, Lincoln's body was transported to the White House by an honor guard on April 15. There, it was embalmed, a relatively new practice at the time, to preserve it for the extended mourning period. The East Room was transformed into a somber chapel, draped in black crepe with mirrors and chandeliers covered in mourning fabric. On April 18, the public was allowed to view the open coffin from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., followed by a private viewing for dignitaries until 7:30 p.m. Thousands filed past, many weeping openly at the sight of their beloved president, his face showing the toll of years of wartime leadership. The formal funeral service in the White House occurred on April 19, attended by approximately 600 invited guests, including cabinet members, military leaders, and foreign diplomats. The East Room overflowed with mourners, some spilling into the adjacent Green Room. Notably absent was Mary Todd Lincoln, the president's widow, who was too overcome with grief to attend. General Ulysses S. Grant sat alone at the head of the catafalque, his uniform a stark contrast to the black draped surroundings, and was seen wiping away tears. President Andrew Johnson stood with the cabinet. The Reverend Dr. Phineas D. Gurley, pastor of the New York Avenue Presbyterian Church, delivered a poignant sermon, likening Lincoln to Moses leading his people to the Promised Land but not entering it himself. After the service, guests exited in orderly lines to the north driveway, where they awaited the procession. At 2 p.m., the coffin was carried out by soldiers and placed on a grand funeral car, an elaborate hearse drawn by 6 white horses matched in size and color. The procession moved slowly down Pennsylvania Avenue toward the U.S. Capitol, accompanied by military bands playing dirges and the tolling of church bells across the city. Thousands lined the streets, many in tears, as the cortege passed. At the Capitol Rotunda, a ceremonial service was held, and Lincoln's body lay in state on April 20, allowing the public another opportunity to pay respects. The most iconic element of Lincoln's funeral was the funeral train, which departed Washington at 12:30 p.m. on April 21, carrying his remains on a 1,654-mile journey through 7 states to Springfield. The train, dubbed the Lincoln Special, consisted of 9 cars, a presidential car holding the coffins of Lincoln and his son Willie, who had died in 1862 and was exhumed to be buried alongside his father, a baggage car, and 7 Pullman sleeping cars for the entourage, including an honor guard and dignitaries. The route mirrored, in reverse, the path Lincoln had taken to his inauguration in 1861, symbolizing a poignant full circle. The train made stops in 13 cities for public viewings, processions, and orations, allowing an estimated 7 million Americans, nearly a quarter of the population, to mourn. In New York City, arriving April 24, the body was displayed at City Hall, drawing 500,000 viewers. A young Theodore Roosevelt watched from his family's window. Albany, Buffalo, Cleveland, Columbus, Indianapolis, and Chicago followed, each with elaborate setups, catafalques adorned with flowers, evergreens, and patriotic symbols. Throughout the journey, The embalming began to fail due to the heat and constant openings of the coffin, causing Lincoln's face to darken and decompose slightly by the later stops. Undertakers touched up the appearance with chalk and rouge. This mobile mourning ritual fostered national unity, as Northerners from diverse backgrounds shared in the grief. The train arrived in Springfield on May 3, 1865, to a city swollen with over 100,000 visitors, far exceeding its 15,000 residents. A grand procession, led by Major General Joseph Hooker and including governors, military officers, clergy, and civic groups, wound through the streets. Lincoln's eldest son, Robert, participated, but Mary and Tad remained in Washington. The route passed the Lincoln family home, draped in black, evoking deep emotion. The body lay in state at the old state capitol from 10 a.m. on May 3 to 10 a.m. on May 4, where 75,000 mourners viewed it on a velvet-draped catafalque under a canopy of white lace and gold stars. Inscriptions quoted Lincoln's words, emphasizing his role as the Union's savior. On May 4, after a final private viewing, the coffin was sealed. The procession to Oak Ridge Cemetery began at noon, accompanied by artillery salutes and funeral marches. At the cemetery, thousands gathered near the public receiving vault, a temporary limestone structure at the base of a wooded knoll. The burial service featured prayers, hymns like Peace, Troubled Soul, and Farewell Father, Friend and Guardian, and a doxology. Bishop Matthew Simpson delivered an oration praising Lincoln's humility, faith, and wartime leadership, noting his Bible study and Christian beliefs. The coffin was placed in the vault alongside Willie's, concluding what contemporaries called the most grand and sublime funeral pageant the world ever saw. His permanent tomb, dedicated in 1874 at Oak Ridge, became a pilgrimage site, housing Lincoln, Mary, and 3 sons.